You're going to be hearing from all three of these Broadway babies throughout the evening, but we wanted to give you the exclusive.
Past babies.
Well, this is a Bronx baby right here, straight from the Bronx.
But I'm saying we are at an age that we can't be called babies anymore.
Oh, that's true. Okay, Broadway. Well, you were
babes. How about
babes on Broadway? That's
Babes
what we'll
on
say.
Broadway.
Yeah, babes on Broadway. So you'll be hearing from them a little bit more this evening, but of course we wanted to give you all just a little sneak peek and chat for a few minutes before we all go into the theater. First of all, Baayork Lee, you have been working so hard on this event. You are the heart of why we are all here right now and keeping a chorus line alive around the world. How do you feel right now?
I am so nervous. Because it's been 50 years I've been waiting for this day. And I've been waiting for this day. And I pitched this to Natalie 2 years ago, and she grabbed onto it and she said, yes, let's do it. And here we are. I can't believe it. I've been waiting for this day.
Yeah. You know, you were handed this show essentially by Michael Bennett, of course, who is the creator, the choreographer, the director of A Chorus Line. He sort of handed the reins to you. Talk a little bit about how that happened and what that meant to you.
Well, I had done 2 flop shows with him. And so now we are, doing a workshop. We don't know what it is. And I guess it was opening night. We were downtown, and we did our 16 kicks, and everybody ran to their dressing rooms, and he grabbed me, and I thought he was going to give us some notes. I had to give notes because I was a dance captain. He said, you're going to do this. You're going to take this around the world. And I went, oh, yeah, sure. Oh, absolutely. I've just done 2 flop shows with you, so... And here I am, 50 years later.
And here you are. And we are so happy that you've kept it alive and brought it here to City Springs Theater Company in a wonderful production about 2 or 3 years ago here at City Springs, which I will never forget coming to see it here. So Kelly Bishop, when is the last time you saw these? How often do you all get together?
Well, Priscilla and I are best friends and have been for 50 years
Wow.
because of A Chorus Line. And now we both live in the same state, 7 miles from one another.
7 miles.
So we talk a lot. We talk 2 or 3 times a week, and we see each other probably at least twice a month. Now, Baayork, I don't see that often, but I've known Baayork for 50 years because we did Promises together for Michael Bennett. It was a hit. In fact, I have that young German Shepherd, and I went off with my, that's another story, but the dog was probably about 8 months old, and you and your husband had a lake house, and you took the dog off and taught it how to swim. So my German Shepherd learned how to swim because of Baayork Lee. She can teach anyone anything.
Wow. Skills that we didn't know you had, Baayork Lee. That's amazing. Priscilla Lopez, you and I talked a little bit earlier. The impact of A Chorus Line is felt in many ways, but it became the longest running show on Broadway. And when it did, you all came back together again.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was the best thing that ever happened. It was so major in terms of first breaking the barrier of being the longest show on Broadway ever. And Michael Bennett's genius and imagination, he decided to bring many companies that were around the world doing the show, around the country, the original company, the company on Broadway, to perform A Chorus Line in the Shubert Theater. And it was called the Gala. And it was just so incredible and exciting. And at times he thought, what have I done? We had gone to Gene Shalit. He had a talk show. He was a newsman. And the day before we were doing the gala, I went with Michael to promote the gala and tell him what was happening. And I got to sing What I Did for Love there. And when I came back with Michael to the theater, he said, what have I done? I'm afraid this is too, I don't know what's going to happen. I said, Michael, this is so exciting. Don't be afraid. It's fabulous, So it was fabulous, and the energy was up, beyond the rooftops. There were 345 dancers on the stage from all the companies around the the world, the nation. And the moment I remember the most is when the present company that was on Broadway did the whole opening number, but at the end, when everyone comes forward, puts their pictures up, we made a transition to the original company. So now we're standing there with the photographs, and every night that I did that show, I used to count the vamps at the end of the opening number to go bump, bump, bump. So on a normal night, we would get 10 vamps. On a holiday night, a weekend night, a sold-out night, we would get 13. I stood up on this stage and I started to count the vamps as I usually did. We got 33 vamps. And as the vamps continued, we're holding our papers like this. Once it passed a certain number, you start going like this. Because the energy that was coming from the audience to us was, I got goose pimples now. It was just amazing. And that love for us, for the show, for everything, I think that's my most favorite recollection and experience of this show.
Wow. Wow. Amazing.
I'll add something. It was huge. I mean, to have all of these companies from all over the world come into the Shubert Theater. And of course, when you're rehearsing, there'll be one group here and the other, and everyone else sits out in the audience, feet up in the back with chairs and such. And we were treated like royalty. Michael made sure of it. The original company, we were it's sort of like we had space around us. It was, we were magic. And
auras. We had auras.
The auras, that's it. And the other thing that was so impressive about it, I mean, how huge this celebration was, is that they had to reinforce the stage at the Shubert Theater in order to hold up 300 people, because at the finale, people came down from, chorus line people came down from the balcony, from the mezzanine, through all of the aisles and up onto the stage, so that by the end of the whole thing, they had all the companies there, and they had to reinforce the whole bottom of the stage. It was amazing.
Incredible. You talk about the energy of that night. I want to go back to April 15th, 1975. That was the first preview performance when it was off-Broadway. So the show started at the Public Theater off-Broadway. There was a crowd of 299 people there that very first night. And anybody that was there that night now will say that it was unlike anything they'd ever experienced, that after the show, it was like a wave of phone calls across New York City saying, something is happening at the Public Theater and you need to go. What do you remember about that first performance?
Nothing. I was so worried about my lines and my song that that's all I worried about.
Well, and Kelly, they say that you would look out and just see celebrities crowding in, Liza Minnelli and Diana Ross, and they were all there, standing room only, to see the show off Broadway. Do you remember that? Well,
what I do remember is, because the Public Theater, many of you probably have been there, it's like an amphitheater. So Zach, the main character, the director who runs the whole thing, who is basically Michael Bennett, he was up at the back, so that when we stood on stage, we had to look up to him, which was kind of a wonderful theatrical device as well, is that you're talking to the authority. But it was packed down there, and on top of that, it's amazing that the aisles had celebrities sitting in them, because there were no more seats, and they somehow conned their way into it. And the Zach character had to run down the aisle to get on the stage to do a scene, and then run back up the aisle, and they were always being pushed over because he had no way to go. But it was the fact that you would see major celebrities sitting in the aisles just to see us,
The thing that I remember is, after that first performance, we did our kicks, and we went off, and they were applauding. And we went backstage, and they were applauding. And we took off our costumes, and they were applauding. I mean, and we kept going, what's happening? What's happening? What is going on, Because we were like in this world of isolation, in a black box, doing this thing and not getting any response from anybody, in terms of what they felt. And so when they felt what we were doing was the first time that we felt what they were feeling. And basically, the other thing was this, that they experienced what we went through in our process of putting on this show, because they are personal stories from our lives and experiences of, just growing up as a person, just trying to get into this business, trying to get your first job, wanting to be a working actor, being rejected, all that stuff. They were out there, and we went through it. It was almost like, I always felt like I was in a therapy session when we were doing this, and it was very cleansing in a sense. But then the audience came in, and they came in at the point that we had started this experiment in a sense. And so they would come backstage with tears in their eyes, because we all cried through this whole thing. And they would come back in the state that we started in, and we dealt with it as we went through it. But remember how everybody would just come back like, I don't know what to do.
And you also recall, both of you very well, I'm sure, the way the show originally ended. You go into the theater, you've got a blank stage, you've got a black stage, you've got a white line, no set, nothing. And then the lights go down, the lights come up, and this audition is starting that you start to witness as an audience. At the end of the original concept, by the time we got to performance, that was it. You'd stand there at the very end, and the people got the job, and one's celebrating, and somebody else is hugging, and then the stage went to black, and when the lights came up, there was that empty stage again. That was it, which, for my money, theatrically, was magic, because it was like, did I see this or what? And it turns out that Neil Simon came in to doctor the show a little bit. He actually did Pam's part, the Dance 10 Looks 3. He doctored her dialogue into it, which stayed. It was very, very good. And of course, that number was a hit. And he was married to Marsha Mason at the time. And Marsha Mason, like so many people, were so emotional at the end of the show because it really tore your heart out. She said, Michael, they have to take their bows, because we didn't take bows. We were just gone. We weren't there anyway. And she said, you have to give them something. We need something. And that's when he created the finale, which you'll see tonight, so that people could have this release. But I honestly thought it was wonderful the way it was. I loved that you were, did I just see that? Yeah. It's empty, it's gone. But that's why they applauded so long. They wanted us to come out.
They wanted us to come back.
Take out and take a bow, and we didn't take bows.
Also, if you remember, at the end, he would have the mirrors turn around so the audience could see themselves.
Yes,
Right.
Yes, yes.
And they were part of it.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, an audience is part of it, and I think every audience should appreciate that about themselves. Every performance for an actor on a stage is different. The show is set, you've learned it, you've rehearsed it, you've done the whole thing. Every show is different because of you, because you bring that. That's what we do together. So, vital.